Update. Am I the a-hole for banning my sister's boyfriend from my house and closing the door in his face? Original post. I, 30 male, love my baby sister, 26 female, but absolutely loathe her boyfriend. My sister is not the brightest bulb and is a self-admitted gold digger. While other little girls dreamed about falling in love with their Prince Charming, my sister only dreamed of the castles and dresses. I know this sounds pretty cruel, but she's always been open about it. She's pretty enough, takes care of her health, and puts time and effort into being the arm candy she thinks guys like. She can be sweet and fun, but when it comes to love and ambition, she just seems emotionally empty. Over time, my family gave up on trying to get her to better herself, and we've all just settled with the assumption that she'll be a divorcee with okay money by her 40s. Her boyfriend is very successful financially, but also a turd of a person in nearly every possible way. He hates single moms. He hates women who make more money than him or are taller than him. He has nasty things to say about black people, brown people, gay people, me, and has told my sister in front of people to mind her P's and Q's, or else he'll replace her. He talks about how women who fall in with MLMs would be better off not being alive, despite the fact that he's lost sizable amounts of money to bad investments trademark, like crypto schemes. She doesn't mind all this too much, it seems. If I suggest she break up with him, her first concerns are usually centered around how she wants to be able to drive his fancy car, host parties in his swanky apartment. She stays there but isn't on the lease. She still has a room at home with my parents she can go back to at any time. And how he's funding the life she wants. There doesn't seem to be any real manipulation on his end. It's more like he expects to have a woman around like a pet and really could get another girlfriend if he needed to. Easy come, easy go. Over the holidays, I hosted a few family parties at my house. My partner and I had our parents, siblings, nibblings, and a few friends over for a white elephant gift exchange on Christmas. My sister brought the boyfriend along. I honestly didn't even know why he came. It seems like he hates us. I had a bit of a last straw moment with him making comments about my sexuality, turning his nose up at our family's choice of gifts, and just overall being an uppity creep to me and my loved ones. So before the end of the night, I rounded up my sister and her awful boyfriend and told them, in no uncertain terms, that going forward he would not be welcome in my house. I didn't get much of a reaction from either of them. They left together without argument. Days later, while preparing for our New Year's Eve party, I called my sister again and reminded her that her boyfriend was not invited, unwelcome, unwanted, and outright banned from my property. She absently uh-huhed at me. I even asked her to put me on speakerphone. She was with him, because of course she was, and repeated myself so that he could hear me. All I heard was a far-off, whatever, but that still counted as a response as far as I'm concerned. They showed up together at my house for New Year's. I cheerfully let my sister in and promptly closed the door in the boyfriend's face. It felt amazing. 10 out of 10 would do again. However, my sister got mad. She shouted and cursed at me, threw the door open to go after him, but he had already walked back to the car. There was no yelling from him, no drama. He simply drove off stone-faced. My sister says I'm an a-hole for doing that in front of our family. That she's now stranded at my house now, good. That he won't answer her calls, great. And that he'll possibly dump her for letting him get disrespected, amazing. She says she didn't think I was serious about banning her boyfriend from my house and that none of us should take what he says or does personally because his opinions don't actually affect us. Through tears, she told me she still wants the boyfriend experience of bringing someone around her family and that this was the only emotional labor she asked of this guy, and he was willing to do it. He never came back to get her or responded to her calls and texts. She ended up going home with my parents and has been there since. At some point soon, she'll probably get a ride to his place and likely go back to my parents' house with her stuff in a box. Our parents are kind of on her side here and are saying that I should have just quietly asked them to leave and at least not embarrassed my sister. I know we all dislike the boyfriend, but I thought we were on the same page about not wanting him around us because he's just so awful. I don't think it's really a bad thing if he breaks up with her. And this is the first I've heard of her apparent deep need for the boyfriend experience at family get-togethers. I think she likes showing off her rich boyfriend just as much as he seemed to like having a pretty girl as an accessory, and she's upset that she'll need to start over now. All that being said, it's my house. It's my life, and I'm not trying to have a bigot like this guy around me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You warned them. Agreed. Use honesty as your defense. Now it's time to be extra honest and be a caring, understanding brother. You're sorry she's been punished for your actions and that this relationship doesn't align with her marriage goals. Cue malicious compassion. She's wasted her time with a guy who asserts his control through punishment, and it's now evident he'd prenup her into oblivion. So sad to waste her best years on a guy who doesn't value her security the way she does. Remove the emotion from your action. Agree that your action created this reaction, and tell her you're sorry she's being punished, and that he isn't the guy to protect her like she deserves. His sister didn't waste her time. She's just as despicable as her a-hole boyfriend. They deserve each other. Now she can find some other poor sap to use and exploit for financial gain. Hopefully she'll find another a-hole so the rest of the dating pool will be rid of them both. Not the a-hole. They were warned. They chose to ignore it. Not the a-hole. You told them she was welcome, but he wasn't. Maybe you thought he walked her to your door because he was actually being a gentleman. But who am I kidding? Everyone knows he wouldn't. If it were me, I probably would have said, "You were told he was not welcome in my home. Leave now." And shut the door on both of them. She disrespected you by bringing him anyway. I understand you want her away from him, but the truth is, this is what she wants. She isn't disillusioned about who he is. You can only support her from afar for now, but be there when she crashes and burns. Now for the update. Okay, so this is actually highly disappointing. Earlier this evening, my dad gave my sister a ride to the awful boyfriend's place, under the assumption that he was going to break up with her and send her away with her stuff at a box or something. Well, that didn't happen. I called my parents to see if she was back home yet, and my dad said nope. He waited outside in the car while my sister went up to her boyfriend's apartment, and after a little while she texted my dad, telling him to just go home because everything was fine now. I feel like hearing this gave me at least 6 new forehead wrinkles that I didn't have this morning. My dad didn't ask any questions. He basically just double-checked that she was okay and then went back home. So I guess after all that fuss, they're still together. My sister hasn't spoken to me since everything went down on New Year's Eve, and I'm actually somewhat concerned that I won't be hearing from her for quite some time. I want to be clear here. Her terrible boyfriend is not welcome in my home, but she always is. We grew up together, and she was my little shadow when we were kids. I don't like the choices she's made, but I can't help but love her anyway. On that note, I also don't love some of the comments calling her a prostitute or a sugar baby. I guess it's not wrong on a fundamental level, but it's exceedingly hard to face as a big brother. Our family is close-knit. It might not come off that way in my post. The best way I can sum up the vibe toward my sister is, she might be a gold-digging bimbo, but she's our gold-digging bimbo. I'm not really holding out hope that she'll change, because she really has always been like this, but I still want to be there for her if or when her pretty princess moment with rich douchebags ends. Since he's her son, right? A pretty weak conclusion to my New Year's drama. I do appreciate being found not guilty of a-holery in this whole thing. Who would have thought validation from strangers on the internet would feel so comforting? Hey, big brother, your little sister is willing to excuse cruelty and suffering inflicted on other people, including her own family, for monetary gain. That's not being a gold-digging bimbo. That's infantilizing a grown woman making truly horrible decisions for personal gain to the point of delusion. Your sister is a fundamentally bad person, likely because you've all enabled her by not holding her responsible for anything. Once you realize that, you'll realize what you're actually dealing with. Right? The boyfriend is a bad dude, but he's not the problem here. The problem is that his sister is fine subjecting her brother and family to cruelty. His sister cares more about money than about racism, sexism, homophobia, and general awfulness. She absolutely could find another rich dude. There are websites dedicated to it. It likely wouldn't even take her more than a week or so. I don't understand why OP gives his enabling sister a pass. If someone I dated went after my sibling like that, the earth I would scorch would be legendary. Her audacity to be angry with OP after she brought hate into his home tells you everything you need to know about her. Unfortunately, you have given this guy exactly what he wanted. Joining your sister at family events was the only thing she wanted that he was willing to do, so he probably deliberately provoked you so that this would happen. 100% not the a-hole, and I don't think you should have done anything differently. But I do think the only one who loses here is you and your sister's relationship. The boyfriend does not care at all and is not hurt. Next story. Am I the a-hole for threatening to stop contributing to my stepson's college fund after my wife said he's not our son? We got married in our mid-30s. I was single, and she was a single mother of a 3-year-old son. The boy's biological father has been totally absent since the divorce and has never paid any child support, so I was expected to completely take his place as the father of that child. I had no issues with this, mainly because he was just 3 at the time, and I believed he would surely accept me as his dad. Things went smoothly just as I expected for the next 6 to 7 years. Currently, we're in our mid-40s, and the kid is now 14 years old. As he's grown, he started arguing, questioning things, etc. Basically doing all the normal parent-child things a teenager does. I've tried my best to be the best dad since day one, but for the last 4 to 5 years, whenever there's a quarrel with our kid and I try to get involved, my wife shuts me down by saying things like, "Don't get between me and my son," or "I know him best, he's my child," etc. Even though she says this in complete anger, it hurts badly. I feel things like that shouldn't be said no matter what. Although I work a full-time job, it's not like I'm an absent father. I give most of my remaining time to my family. My connection with old friends has weakened, and I've made no new friendships at work. I've discussed this issue and how bad it makes me feel with her 2 or 3 times in the past. She just shrugs it off. Although she doesn't argue, she gets kind of sorry. She very rarely says sorry directly. It just reflects in her behavior. But the same thing keeps happening in about 4 out of every 10 fights we have with our kid. The same thing happened last week. That was the final breaking point, and I made her sit down and talk last Sunday, when our son was out, for an hour. It quickly turned into a fight between us, and I told her that if he's her son and not ours, then all his finances and responsibilities are hers as well, and she shouldn't really expect me to keep putting monthly money into his college fund either, since he's her son, right? We both earn and started saving for his college fund 2.5 years ago. Until now, both of us have contributed to it monthly and equally. I'm thinking of not putting any money into it until she apologizes. I know it sounds like I'm punishing our son, but I would just secretly save those monthly payments somewhere else until then. Am I the a-hole? She's highly upset. Not the a-hole. She's being hypocritical. She says he is her son to try to diminish your authority, yet still expects you to give him money so she doesn't have to. Tell her you are holding her to her own standards. She's saying that to be deliberately hurtful and to marginalize what he's adding to his son's life. She needs a reality check, a big one. This is the sort of thing that kills relationships. I got a divorce over this exact thing. I had no kids. She had 3. 0 participation from the sperm donor. I stepped up 100%. She did not work. When they needed something, they were ours. But if I had an opinion or they needed discipline, they were hers. At the time of the divorce, the sperm donor was $100,000 behind on child support. The kids and I got along great. She was the problem. Thankfully, they were older at the time of the divorce, and I was able to maintain relationships with them. You can't have it both ways. Being a child of divorce and having a stepfather for over 40 years, not the a-hole. While my biological father was present in our lives, my stepfather spent more time with us kids, 4 of us, and was a parent to us. Fast forward to 3 of us kids having kids. My stepfather is grandpa to all and put college funds away for a set number of years for each grandchild, which so far has allowed 3 of the 4 to be college debt-free. I know that if my mom had ever referred to us as her kids and not let my stepfather be a full father figure, we wouldn't be in the position we are in now. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my sister ignored my daughter's babysitting boundary and minimized her discomfort? I'm a 38 female, and my sister is 33. I was out of town with my husband celebrating my birthday when this happened. My sister asked my 16-year-old daughter to babysit her 6-year-old daughter for free. My daughter agreed, but she set one very clear boundary up front. She could only babysit until midnight. She had already worked earlier that day and was exhausted. My sister agreed to this boundary. My daughter is extremely responsible, and my sister knows this. She also knows that my daughter will not go to sleep while she is responsible for a younger child. Before my sister even went out, when I reiterated that she needed to be home by midnight because that's what my daughter was comfortable with, my sister asked, "Oh, she doesn't have work in the morning, right?" I said no, but she was still tired from working early that day. Looking back, this felt like she may have been testing whether she could stay out later than agreed. Midnight came and went, and my sister did not come home. Instead of asking for an extension, she texted my daughter and told her she would be there at 2 a.m. She did not ask if that was okay. She informed her. My daughter was not given the opportunity to say no. My daughter is very kind and did not want to worry me while I was out of town celebrating my birthday. She planned to stay awake and handle the situation herself so I wouldn't have to get involved. I only became involved because I noticed our doorbell never went off and my niece had not been picked up, and it was already over an hour past the agreed time. Around 1 a.m., I tried calling my sister twice and her boyfriend once because her texts were vague and referenced car issues, and I was trying to understand what was actually going on. It later became clear there were no car problems. They had simply taken one car, and her friends were not ready to leave. All calls were ignored. They were still at the bar. By that point, my daughter was exhausted and uncomfortable. Even though the child was asleep, she did not feel comfortable going to sleep while still responsible for a younger child. Responsibility does not end just because a child is asleep. When I confronted my sister, instead of acknowledging that she broke the agreement, she told me I was overreacting because her child was asleep and said my daughter should have just gone to bed. She escalated the situation further by saying our relationship was ruined and that her child would never stay at my house again, simply because I stood up for my daughter. She also brought up my older daughter, 22 female, in a completely unrelated way, as a personal attack on me. For additional context, this is not the first time my sister has done this. She has told my daughter multiple times in the past that she would be back at a certain time and then shown up 2 to 3 hours later. This is the first time I've directly confronted her, largely because this time I was not home and my daughter was left dealing with it alone. I have always helped my sister with childcare when she asks and have never seen it as a burden. I love my niece and have always considered it a privilege to help. This is simply the first time I've pushed back. My mother called me and told me I shouldn't be mad because my sister is going through a lot and that I'm overreacting. I told my mom that I feel like I'm always expected to minimize my feelings and boundaries to keep everyone else happy, and that I'm used to being the one who absorbs the consequences of everyone else's choices. But I don't want to do that anymore. My issue is not that plans changed. My issue is that my sister repeatedly puts herself in situations where she cannot follow through with her responsibilities, extends childcare without consent, expects a 16-year-old to absorb the inconvenience, and then minimizes my daughter's discomfort instead of taking accountability. She genuinely does not see this as a problem because her child was asleep. I don't think that matters. Responsibility doesn't end just because a child is asleep, and my daughter's comfort and consent should have mattered. So, am I the a-hole for being this upset and finally standing my ground? Not the a-hole. Your sister is, and your mother is treating her like the golden child. But the thing is, hard times or not, she decided to have her child, and she's responsible for them. She said she'd be back at midnight, and she's lied multiple times. Do not let your daughter be guilted into babysitting again, because she'll keep doing this. Let her struggle, no matter how hard she begs or what your mother says. Your child and her well-being come first, period. If you keep letting your sister get away with this, she'll keep doing it. She needs to see that actions have consequences. I'd say if mom doesn't see an issue with extended babysitting hours, broken agreements, and lies, Then grandma can babysit in the future. Agreed, not the a-hole.